everyone. This is a bonus episode of Bleep with Anna Navarro. I am Anna Navarro. And today we're going to break down Donald Trump's State of the Union address, which he gave earlier this week on Tuesday. And if you watched it and felt like you did in 8th grade when you were reading the Odyssey and thought it was never going to come to an end, you had reason to feel that way. It was 1 hour and 47 minutes long. So if you made it through the hour and 47 minutes, here's to you. I toast to you. If you decided not to watch it, I toast to you even more. But listen, let's start at the beginning. State of the Union addresses. These things used to be completely different and viewed completely different by the country. I remember as a child first arriving to the United States, I was 8 years old. I would hang on every word, even when I wasn't understanding English fully, that Ronald Reagan would speak. And I have been watching State of the Union addresses because I was a kid that loved politics my entire life. It's like a really big deal for me. It's something that I set everything down and I want to watch it. Of course, now it's part of my job, but it's something that I've always done. And a lot of the country has always done because these are speeches that were meant to give us the state of our country, to announce new proposals, new policies, new legislative initiatives, to talk about accomplishments. But these were also speeches that were meant to unify the country. And where a president was speaking not just to his party, not just to his base, but to his entire constituency of U.S. citizens and people who live in the United States. That's not what Donald Trump does. Donald Trump makes these speeches political. He's speaking only to his base. He is attacking and condemning anybody who doesn't agree with him. Yesterday, he called Democrats crazy and he attacked them and blamed them for a bunch of things. So this is a completely different animal than it used to be. I remember growing up, my congresswoman was Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. Republican Congresswoman, Cuban American that represented South Florida. And she would go and she would scout out a seat on the aisle of the floor of the House of Representatives. And she would sit there all day. She'd pack her breakfast, her lunch, and her dinner and sit there all day in order to have an aisle seat so she could say hello to the president as he came in, whether it was a Republican of her party or a Democrat. She did it year after year, took the picture, got in the camera shot because it was that big a deal. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter whether you were a Democrat or a Republican or anything else. You were an American on those nights. That's not what the reality is in 2026 under Donald Trump. So for this State of the Union, many Democrats, upwards of 70 Democrats decided to boycott. And, I was watching TV and I saw some folks criticizing the Democrats, including other Democrats that decided to boycott. I saw people like my CNN colleagues and friends, like Michael Smerconish, like Rahm Emanuel, who worked in the Obama White House, criticizing the folks who had decided to skip the State of the Union. And I asked myself, what would I do theoretically if I was in Congress? Would I sit through this? And, I've always considered myself an institutionalist. I love the ceremony. I love the pomp and circumstance and the gravity and seriousness of a night like the State of the Union. But I don't think I would have attended. I think I would have been one of those who skipped it. And I realized that most of the people, all of the people that I saw on TV criticizing those who decided to skip the State of the Union were white men. And I think it may hit differently when you're not a white man. And I don't mean to make it racial because not everything is, but you have to understand, I think it is particularly different and difficult if you are a Black member of Congress. And Donald Trump has just posted a meme depicting Barack and Michelle Obama as apes, is trying actively to erase and whitewash history. It hits differently if you are a member of the Hispanic caucus of Congress. And for a whole year, you have watched our community being terrorized. You have seen our children being put in detention centers in inhumane conditions. You have seen our pregnant women get dragged through the streets. You have seen our community racially profiled and hit with sticks and attacked and pepper sprayed and killed at times. It hits differently. It hits differently if you are a woman and you know that this administration is failing the Epstein victims yet again. The survivors were in the hall yesterday, and Donald Trump never once had so much as one word of acknowledgement or recognition for the Epstein survivors who were sitting there in front of him. So I don't think it's by coincidence that most of the people I watched on news and cable channels criticizing those who boycotted are white men. It's different. It's different for those of us who aren't white men. And I am all for those who boycotted. Frankly, I think I would have boycotted had I been in Congress, because I don't think I could sit there and listen to 1 hour and 47 minutes of lies from a president who has perpetrated such terror and injustice on my community in particular. But okay, now that we've gone through that, let's talk about the meat or lack thereof of the State of the Union itself, the speech. The speech was rather meh. It was boring, the rants of a senile old man. But it was full of feel good moments. It was full of moments that had us all in our feelings as Americans. So I kind of felt like when you get a cheap gift from someone and it's wrapped in beautiful wrapping, when you see the wrapping and the bow and you think to yourself, man, this is great. And then you open it up and there's nothing inside. This is how that State of the Union felt. The speech itself was full of lies. It was full of misinformation. It was full of made up numbers. But there was also so many moments during the speech, and this was done for a purpose. Donald Trump was producing this speech like if it was a TV show, like if it was a movie. To me, it felt like I was watching one of those game shows from the 1970s. And from door one, let's see who's coming out from door one. Let's see who's coming out from door two. And the U.S. hockey team would pop out. Door three, and the Venezuelan former political prisoner would pop out. Okay, contestant number 4, you come out now. And the pilot who was part of the operation against Maduro would come out. It was highly produced. Donald Trump gave out medals and awards. He was like Oprah yesterday. And I'm not saying those people didn't deserve the awards and the accolades and the recognition. All of them did, but it felt very produced and staged and performative. You get a medal, you get a Medal of Freedom, and you get a Purple Heart, and you get a Medal of Legion. It was frankly ridiculous. Most of the time, these medals are given in serious ceremonies at the White House East Room, and they are not part of a performance put on during the State of the Union. But you know what? I'm not even going to complain about that, because remember the year he gave a Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh during the State of the Union? At least the people he gave them to yesterday were all very deserving of these medals. Now let's go into the speech itself. If you missed it, let me just catch you up on some of the many, many lies the man told during this entire time. He said things like gas prices are now below $2.30 a gallon in most states, and in some places they are under $2, $1.99. That's simply not true. He said that tariffs were paid by foreign countries. People, that is not true. We all know that these tariffs have cost the average American family over $1,300 last year. We all know that it is mostly the companies importing the goods that are paying those tariffs and then passing the cost on to us. We, the American consumer, have been the ones paying his tariffs. When he says that they are being paid by foreign countries, he is lying or he is confused. With Trump, I just never know. He said, he talked about this tragic case that happened in Charlotte, North Carolina, involving a Ukrainian woman who had fled Ukraine. Her name is Irina Sarutska. And she was, remember, this is the case of the woman who was stabbed to death while riding public transportation in Charlotte. And she said the guy who's obviously a nutcase who had been in and out of prison, he said he was an illegal immigrant who came in through Biden's open borders. The man is a U.S. citizen born in North Carolina. I mean, these are the type of bold-faced lies that Trump says over and over again. I guess he thinks that people are just stupid. He thinks people won't look him up. He doesn't care that he will get fact-checked. He just thinks that if he says something, if he utters it, if he makes it up, people will believe it. But I mean, at this point, who does? Other than the base that is drinking the Kool-Aid, who believes the bullshit that comes out of this man's mouth? And it was interesting because I found myself not even being surprised. And I think part of it is because I have heard these lies from him. He has repeated them over and over again. Donald Trump thinks that if he says things enough times, they will become true, whether they are lies. He thinks he has the power to turn things into truth just by repeating the lies over and over again. He said that grocery prices had declined. Have you all been to the grocery store lately? That is a lie. He said that our drug prices, that we now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world. That is a lie. He said no other president had lower drug prices. Joe Biden capped insulin at $35 a month. Shall we forget that? He said that in our elections, the cheating was rampant. Yet another lie. He said that 12,000 murderers had come in through open borders under Joe Biden. That is a lie. That number is being made up. Donald Trump just fabricates numbers and figures, pulls them out of his ass, and throws them out into the ether, thinking that they will be true and that people will believe him. And then he said that Maduro, that Venezuela had opened up its prisons and its insane asylums, and millions of people had flooded into the United States. Ay, Dios mío. I don't even know what to say about this. So let me tell you what I think is happening on that one, because that's a lie that he has said so many times and continues to say. I think we need to talk about it a little bit more. Okay, so in 1980, which is the year I came to this country, there was something called the Mariel boat lift, named after the port of Mariel in Cuba. And that was a case where well over 100,000 Cubans came to the United States, mostly to Florida, mostly to Miami, between the months of April and October of 1980. So Fidel Castro said to the Cubans in exile, if you want to come and pick up your family, you can. But once the family got there, so there was like a flotilla of boats of every size you can imagine going from Miami to Cuba, desperate families trying to get their families out of Cuba. But Fidel said, okay, you can take your family, but you got to take these people as well. And Fidel in 1980 opened up the insane asylums and the prisons in Cuba and forced people who were picking up their families from Cuba, the Cuban Americans, to take these folks from the prisons and insane asylums with them if they wanted to take their families. And so that meant that, yes, thousands flooded into South Florida. They were referred to as the Marielitos. 125,000 Marielitos came in total. That included a lot of people who were not criminals, who were not from insane asylums. Donald Trump is taking this thing that happened in Cuba in 1980, which he read somewhere or somebody told him about, and he is conflating it and transferring it to Venezuela in 2023, 24, 25. You all, it is a lie. There is zero evidence that Maduro ever did that. There was no flotilla of people picking. This is a completely different situation, but he is taking what happened in 1980 and pretending it happened under Biden. It did not. I mean, he's either insane, cuckoo, crazy, está loco pa'l carajo. In Spanish, we have a word, habla babosadas. He talks babosadas. Baboso is somebody who drools, and the stuff they utter are usually stupid things. Well, this is one of those stupid things. And on the Venezuela issue, there is something I noticed yesterday. He gave all sorts of props and compliments and attaboys to Daisy Rodriguez, who is the vice president of Nicolas Maduro, with whom they are now dealing and who is now the leader of Venezuela. He said she was great, that she was doing a great job, that it was, that the relationship is great. So you explain to me, if he is so offended by Maduro releasing people from insane asylums and prisons, Daisy Rodriguez was his number two. She was part and parcel of all of that didn't happen. But if it had happened, she would have been part and parcel of that. She was part and parcel of torturing people, of jailing dissidents, of dissidents being killed and beat and forced into exile. And that's the woman that he gave all sorts of props to. So that's a little bit about the some of the highlights that I noticed from yesterday's State of the Union. Listen, nothing is going to change. He went into this with low poll numbers, and he's going to come out of this with low poll numbers. State of the Unions used to give people a bump. There used to be a significant bump coming out of the speech if the president had done a good job. I don't think that's going to happen here. We don't know the rating numbers yet, but I suspect that when they come out, they are going to be low because there's a lot of people that decided to go rewatch Heated Rivalry or go watch Love Story or go rearrange their sock drawer instead of watching this State of the Union. That's basically it. So today, State of the Union is over and things go back to being exactly like they were the day before. Nothing's going to change unless we take this into our own hands and we make a change. So I want to remind everyone that if you want there to be a change, if you want there to be pushback, if you want there to be oversight, we are less than 250 days from the midterm elections. Get yourself registered, get yourself engaged, and get yourself ready to vote. Bleep with Ana Navarro is a Hyphenate Media group production in partnership with iHeart's My Cultura podcast network. For more of your favorite shows, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.